Iran's underground Blood Covenant group has launched an online fundraiser promising $40 million for the assassination of President Donald Trump. Senior clerics have issued a fatwa labeling him an enemy of God, and supporters are pledging millions via a secret website. The U.S. Secret Service has heightened security at Mar-a-Lago, while global tensions escalate. Check this out.
All of this coming as a fatwa, or religious decree from Iranian officials, is calling for the assassination of President Trump, and they claim to have created an online fund worth an estimated $40 million. Max Lesser is senior analyst for emerging threats at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He's been looking into all of this and does join us now live to discuss it a little bit further. First off, Max, thank you so much for being here with us. Can you kind of explain the situation here overall as a whole, what we're being told and maybe what we don't know just yet?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Josh. So there have been a lot of threats issued recently by members of the Iranian government, Shiite clerics against Trump or just against Americans more broadly. And what I would say is that Iran has been trying to assassinate President Trump for years. And now it's all out in the open. And what I've been looking at with my team at FDD is a particular website that is seeking or allegedly claiming to crowdfund a bounty for Donald Trump's assassination, saying, look, if you carry out this deed, we will compensate you with this money. They claim to have raised millions and millions of dollars. The most recent figure was over $40 million. We have no idea if this is a legitimate number or not. But it's a clear effort to try to mobilize and motivate any sympathetic audience to carry out an act of violence against President Trump.
What first brought the site there to your attention? And I'll be honest, I can't really pronounce the name of it. I don't know if you can, but what made it kind of stand out to you as a potential threat?
Yeah, so the website actually takes its name for the Arabic word for revenge. And a lot of time what I have my team do, we monitor for malicious Iranian activity. And a lot of times what that looks like, to be quite honest, is just doom scrolling. People are probably familiar with that term, just doom scrolling on social media, scrolling and scrolling and searching and looking for these little needles in the haystack. And so one of my remarkable interns actually came across this website and flagged it to me very early on, back on July 8th. And what I immediately wanted to do, we saw it was clearly an Iranian website. It had a .ir domain name, which shows that it was created in Iran. And what we wanted to do was to go in and actually see, well, who actually created this website? Was this potentially an Iranian government effort? Was this just a vigilante effort? And when we looked at it, we actually uncovered the identity of a man who was involved in the creation of the website, which I'm happy to chat more about. And that man actually has historical ties to the Iranian state broadcasting group. So we actually were able to identify the man, one of the men behind this website, and reveal his identity.
I do want to talk more about that, of course. So tell me what you learned about this guy.
Yeah, so the man, again, as I mentioned before, he previously, or at one point, worked for the Iranian state broadcaster. So that's a clear tie to an Iranian government organization. And he seems to have created this website. It's unclear if he's acting alone or with others, but he's creating this hashtag. And what I would say about this website is it's sort of, I would call it an influence operation, because what it really seeks to try to do is try to influence people, to mobilize people, to carry out acts of violence. And on the website, he actually references those fatwas that you mentioned earlier to lend religious authority to this effort. And it is quite concerning. And what we can do is by revealing the man's identity, we can actually, the US government can implement more targeted sanctions against the people who are directly responsible for the creation of this website.
You kind of touched on this already, but is there any way to really verify that we are talking about a $40 million bounty that has been raised by this group? There's no way to really know that for sure. It could just be a number that they're throwing out there.
Yeah, yeah, that's an excellent point, Josh. And that speaks to the point that I brought up earlier, which is that this is really, I would categorize this as an influence operation. It's seeking to influence people. It's seeking to mobilize people. Pushing that number up higher and higher just holds the potential to motivate people more and more and more to carry out this violence. And I think this is what we've seen from Iranian operations, especially since October 7th, and especially since the 12-day war that happened recently between Iran and Israel. We've seen Iranian influence operations increasingly take this violent turn. One of the operations that me and my team have been tracking, I and my team have been tracking, actually put Saudi Aramco in its crosshairs and was trying to mobilize Yemenis to carry out acts of violence against Saudi Aramco. So we see this sort of increasingly violent turn in Iranian influence operations. And this actually, though we're seeing this trend, this goes back a long time. Actually, there was an Iranian operation in the past called Enemies of the People that created websites that doxed election officials and tried to incite acts of violence against election officials in the past. So again, it's this increasing concern when people think about foreign line influence, they might think about influencing public opinion, trying to shape people's votes. But this website really shows an example where foreign line influence is being used to mobilize people and motivate people to commit an act of violence to assassinate President Trump, which is quite frankly an extreme escalation and something that I think should be taken very seriously.
What do people out there in the public who are maybe watching this right now need to know about the maybe evolving threat of these different threats that are happening online? What information do they need to be aware of, and how can U.S. governments use that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Josh. And I think for the viewers of this show, I think Americans really it would be good for Americans to be cognizant of the fact, to be aware of the fact that our two oceans on each side of our country no longer protect us from malicious actors on the other side of the world, right? Like the internet provides a vehicle for malicious actors, be they in Tehran or Moscow or Beijing, to leverage the internet to undermine Americans, if that's issuing direct threats to Americans, as we've seen in the past with Iranian doxing campaigns, or if it's seeking to recruit former government officials, what we've seen with a lot of Chinese recruiting campaigns happening recently, or if it's with classic Russian campaigns to sort of destabilize society using social media. Our oceans no longer protect us. And I think this Iranian operation that we are following, this website that's crowdfunding a bounty for President Trump's assassination, is just, I think, a glaring example of the way that the internet and social media and online platforms can be leveraged maliciously to undermine America and Americans.
All right. Max Lesser, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us here and break down that investigation. Anything else you want to add about any of this here before I let you go?
No, I think just people should remain vigilant. Obviously, we've reported this to law enforcement, and if there's any sort of suspicious activity surrounding this or amplification on social media, I encourage you to reach out to law enforcement and just remain vigilant. And yeah, I think this just really shows again that our adversaries do not have our best intentions in mind. And yeah, I just stay safe out there.
All right. Thank you again for being here with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is No Filter News. Truth served raw, bold, and uncut. Hit that sub, stay loud, and catch us on the next drop. We don't fade out. We level up.